As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. I was born into freedom in a wonderful land of mountains and plains, rivers and lakes. Forever American is what I am. A past as rich as any can be. My father's worked hard to give this to me. I love this place I come from. To live another way I cannot foresee. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. As an American, I've been to the peaks of majestic mountains where the air is sweet. I've watched the eagle as it soars in beautiful skies that just can't be ignored. And by this country I'll always stand, for freedom and liberty for every man. When times are hard and things get rough, America always stands ready and rough. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. Forever American is what I am.
Hello, hello, hello. How you guys doing tonight? Hopefully you guys are all having a great night. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Richard. Hi, Matt. Hi, Tia. Hi, Greg. Hi, Debbie Rogers. Hi, Nana. Hi, Pam. Hi, Alex. Hi, Tia. Hi, Linda. How you guys all doing tonight? Thank you guys for joining us. And please hit that like and share button. Hi, Darlene and Jordana and everyone else that is liking it. You finally got a notification for the first time. I am so glad. Hopefully notifications will start going out more often now. Of course, I've been fighting back and forth with Facebook about this, but gotta hope for the best. Amongst everything that's happening right now, it's ridiculous, though, looking at the world and the situation that we're watching, especially this sudden cancellation today of the grand jury. For today only, it was canceled for sure. We don't know about tomorrow, but we will figure out. But the cancellation of the Trump grand jury sparks a wave of theories. Most theories, and what I'm speculating is the grand jury in the Manhattan case involving Donald Trump is obviously they didn't meet today, but we don't know when they're going to reconvene. And there's no way there's going to be a vote that Trump by the weekend. So the question is, why did they not have today DA scheduled or the indictment for the grand jury is scheduled? And that becomes a lot of questions. It becomes a question of maybe they know they don't have enough to even get an indictment from the grand jury. And if that's the case and they keep extending the grand jury out to try to get more information, to try to somehow push to get an indictment, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, they're saying we can't confirm or comment on the grand jury matters. That's what Manhattan's district attorney is telling everybody. But rumors are swirling that, of course, that they can't get an indictment, which that's what I believed in the first place, because reasonable to indict somebody would have to be breaking a law. I mean, this kind of case is attempting to build a case that has never been brought before or actually can't be brought. That's the biggest thing. This kind of case has never been brought before a grand jury, and rightfully so, it shouldn't be brought against the grand jury because it's effortless. And he's spending time, the grand jury is spending time and effort and money on instead of fighting violent crimes, which are destroying New York City and Manhattan. I mean, and because of that, it's becoming an absolute hellhole there, which would be a much better place to live, if they actually did what they were supposed to do, prosecute crimes. But instead, they're going after something that's not even a criminal activity at this point. I mean, I think they're waiting to hopefully for potential witnesses or somebody to come back to give additional testimony. Somehow they have to get some kind of indictment, and that's what they're pushing for, to extend the grand jury. It's unclear if they even completed its investigation. I mean, based on what we know publicly, there are plenty of loose ends that the prosecutor may need to tie up. So delay is not all that surprising. Problem is, this should never even be brought in front of a grand jury. I mean, if the grand jury comes back with a not guilty verdict, they can't even, I mean, it ends the whole scenario. The case is trash. It was trash in the beginning, and it's going to be trash in the end. We all know that. And that's, of course, what's going on with the Trump, this whole indictment that they're trying to seek. I mean, watching everything that happens is just ridiculous. The federal government didn't prosecute. Federal government had at least more of a standing to prosecute if they wanted to, but they didn't. As we're watching this now, of course, they're just trying to push stuff down people's throats and make them believe that Trump shouldn't be indicted at this point, which we know there's no indictment necessary. But of course, then we kind of switch gears and look at what's happening around the rest of the world. As the U.S., of course, is losing money at alarming rates. The estimated recovery and reconstruction needs for Ukraine will be around $411 billion, according to the World Bank. Rebuilding the Ukrainian economy after Russia's invasion, if we even get to, will cost around $411 billion. I mean, this is ridiculous. Where's the money going to come from? Who's going to pay it? Of course, the United States has been funneling money ridiculously into Ukraine at a huge amounts. I mean, the estimates keep going up sharply as Russia keeps bombing more buildings and destroying more inside of Ukraine. These projections, of course, come days after the International Monetary said that its staff had reached an agreement with Ukraine authorities on a 4-year, $15 billion loan package. $15 billion, that's it. Literally, this is a sad situation. I mean, it's not going to fix the energy infrastructure or housing or the critical infrastructure. I mean, maybe help a little bit on some things, but not much. I mean, the estimated damage and recovery needs are ridiculous. In the U.S., of course, I'm guaranteed that money is going to be funneled from us. Guaranteed. The sad part is even the U.S. is having so many issues right now. I mean, the Fed's delivered a small rate hike amidst the global banking turmoil that's happening, only 0.25%, which I projected would be 0.25%. I was right. And the indications of increased borrowing costs and after the recent collapse of the two U.S. banks, or two big U.S. banks, I mean, they're trying to reinsure investors that soundness of the banking system, saying that the management of Silicon Valley Bank failed badly. But the bank collapse did not indicate wider weakness in the banking system, but we are seeing wider weakness. This is the problem. They're saying we're not seeing wider weakness running abroad through the banking system, but we are. We're seeing companies like Credit Suisse having position taking over a bank, but then having their position fold as well. I mean, analysts for Credit Suisse collapse threatens Switzerland's wealth management crown. I mean, if Credit Suisse, which is Switzerland's biggest credential world-leading wealth management bank, if they have an issue, which experts are warning and calling into question the reputation for the stability and regulation of corporate governance, this is a huge problem. Huge problem. Battered by years, of course, of scandal and loss, of fighting the crisis of the confinement for months before the demise that was sealed just matters that in a matter of just days last week, and Swiss authorities authorized the brokerage and a takeover of the largest rival, UBS. This is showing that governments are failing everywhere, not just around, just nearly. I mean, UBS had problems back in 2008, but it didn't need to be bought out. Of course, it was rescued by the U.S. mortgage securities when we had the big bailout back in 2008. But seeing it need to be bought out is ridiculous. As we're watching what's happening to our banking system around the world and abroad, and at home here, it's troubling. Seeing the Fed's signal the great hike and likely pause of any imminent hikes after this. Gold jumped 2% today. 2% gold jumped. As treasury yields dropped, the dollar value hit a 7-week low. I mean, watching what's happening, I mean, this is crazy. Gold being up 2% today and watching it keep climbing. I mean, it's at $1,973 today per ounce. And that's just the beginning. Anything is appreciated, and we definitely appreciate every penny. Thank you, Alex, for that $10 donation, and thank you, Darlene, for that $50 donation. Sorry I didn't see those come through right away, but we greatly appreciate that. Helping families in need, of course. Got to do math in my head. Oh. That's that. Linda Taylor, did I get your donation today? I thought I got your donation yesterday. Was it that yesterday? Oh, you just donated $5. I didn't even see that. Thank you, Linda Taylor. We definitely appreciate that as well. So that means we reached our goal, and I will be picking a winner of a hat, signed hat from Real News Live. But watching what's happening, I mean, this is crazy. The gold standard, of course, driving gold up, showing that the U.S. dollar has less value, is a big concern. U.S. dollar, of course, hitting its 7-week low is also a big problem. Gold has climbed over 7% so far this month. 7% in a single month, which is absolutely crazy. Watching what's happening. As gold goes up, of course, recession fears are growing. And it's not just a recession. I mean, recession chances have jumped hugely. We know that. even JP Morgan strategists are saying the same thing. JP Morgan Chase has warned clients Monday that the recession chances have increased amidst recent banking crisis, of course, even as Federal Reserve has set to make key decisions and, of course, continuing to raise the rate. Strategists say that it may not be able to avert a recession at all. We know that. We're looking at maybe a depression at this time. And this is huge news. It's crazy out there. We definitely appreciate anything we get for donations. And we understand that people are broken. We don't have a lot of money. Can't say here. But all this recession talk and depression talk is just the beginning. You know, the U.S. is obviously pushing for war, and we've been talking about this for days now, and it's getting worse. The more we look around, the more we see. Of course, U.S. and now bombers are joined by NATO our allies, showing a sign of strength over European skies, supposedly. Watching two B-52 bombers joined by NATO allies flying over Europe. I mean, the B-52s are training with air allied forces, supposedly strengthening the Euro-Atlantic partnership. But really, what are we doing? I mean, we know after two U.S. American bombers were intercepted by Russian fighters over the Black Sea near Crimea just yesterday. And then, of course, an earlier occasion when the U.S. drone was forced down by Russian aircraft. I mean, now we're going to fly B-52s with other jets from NATO countries. I mean, this is pushing for war. I don't know how anybody else can not say this. Yeah, they found the biggest lithium mine ever in Iran now. This is going to be ridiculous. I mean, Russia's threatening to respond to Britain and Ukraine's support for the nuclear collision warning. I mean, threats from Russia alone to Britain for supporting Ukraine is concerning. There are fewer steps to a nuclear collusion at this point, as we're looking around. I mean, Putin said some of the ammunition that Britain is sending to Ukraine include armor-piercing rounds, which contain depleted uranium, which is a direct violation. Equipping supplying Kiev with weapons that contain nuclear components will result in Moscow having to respond if its delivery goes ahead. Depleted uranium shells and rounds are not appropriate. The United Kingdom announced not only the supply of tanks to Ukraine, but the shells with depleted uranium. If this happens, Russia will be forced to respond accordingly, giving the West a collective and already beginning to use weapons with nuclear components. This will directly lead to nuclear war being started, as drastic as this sounds. Putin, of course, made the comments after meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, where they signed an agreement to bring the relationship into the new era. Putin's warning so the world is just merely steps away from nuclear disaster is true. The U.S., of course, pushing for it, as we can see. It's not looking good. It is not looking good as we're watching this. I mean, just another step has been taken. There are fewer left to go. It's not by chance. We know this. We know that the United States, of course, is flying bombers over Europe. We know that they try to fly bombers over Crimea. It's just crazy watching what's happening. And the nuclear conflict at the highest levels in decades, the risk of nuclear conflict. I mean, especially with open conflict with Washington over the Ukrainian war, the war in Ukraine, Russian relations with the United States, long strained, have worsened even since the invasion of Ukraine. With Moscow pulling out, of course, of the START treaty in February. I mean, what's next? There's no question that Russia's that Russia is now moving to build and modernize their nuclear weapons. And the course of Washington is hostile towards Moscow in any way they can find it. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, the likelihood of a nuclear conflict today is high. But is it higher than anything we've had in the past few decades? That's the biggest question. As we're watching what's happening, I mean, around the world, and commitment to keeping the world safe and free from threat of nuclear war, the U.S. is not doing a good job. In fact, we're in a state of de facto open conflict with Russia. Whether we say we are or not, directly participating in supplying weapons to Kiev, while casting war as battles and planning for war for Ukraine, Russia is in de facto, or we're in de facto war with Russia. I mean, one of the world's largest nuclear powers, and knowing Russia's the same, nuclear war can never be won, must never be fought, but the conflict in Ukraine raises fears that direct confrontation between Russia and the West is going to happen, whether people like it or not. I mean, we know from U.S. intel that Putin is expanding his nuclear weapon arsenal as the war in Ukraine drags on. We know that he's arming ships with hypersonic weapons, including regular cargo ships now. Oh, problem is with these key nuclear arms treaty withdrawal and from the New START, everything else, nuclear saber that was on the heels of Ukraine's advances on the battlefield. Now Ukrainians losing ground, watching what's happening there. I mean, Kremlin's long-range nuclear missile capability to deter Kiev and its Western allies is definitely here. I mean, warnings from the nation's top spy masters come as Russia intensifies its now year-long fight in Ukraine and Putin threatens to withdraw a key capabilities. I mean, no longer maintaining for a deterrent, but looking to actively use these as first talk weapons, or first strike weapons. That's not the only concern. China, of course, and the Solomon Islands now working together, which was one of the US's biggest concerns. Solomon Islands has awarded the multi-million-dollar contract for Chinese state company to upgrade its international port in a project funded by the Asian Development Bank, which officials of the island nation said on Wednesday. Now, the U.S. and its allies, of course, including Austria, New Zealand, and Japan, have held concerns as China has had ambitions to build a naval base in the region since the Solomon Islands struck a security pact with Beijing last year. This will be upgrading an old international port and two domestic were in the province. So Solomon Islands infrastructure development, Chinese civil engineering construction companies working together as being the sole bidder in the competition. Lending, I mean, downplaying the concerns amongst the Western government, saying there's no expansion of the project, only to retrofit, constantly denying there's a security pact that would allow a naval base in the Solomon Islands, which we know isn't true. We got to closely monitor the situation, which is going to have a deep impact on the Austrian government as well as Japan and many other governments. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs even is saying that there will be no expansion of the port for dual use, and if there is, they will do something about it. So the question is, who's going to do something about it? Who? That's the big question. Who is going to be able to do anything about this? Chinese agency funding a project within an allied country of them is just a huge problem. And we got Kim Jong-un firing off missiles every day, literally every day. Fired off multiple missiles today, just to show strength. And we know they have plenty more because they just keep throwing them away. Testing them, that's what they call it. Watching this happen, though, is ridiculous. The U.S. no longer is the world power. Let's be honest. We're not. Neither is NATO. The NATO alliance is no longer the strongest alliance in the world. We got to face that fact. We got to face the fact that now Saudi Arabia has joined with Russia and China. Whether we want to agree with it or not, Saudi Arabia is signing a truce deal with Iran, Iran finding the largest lithium mine in the world in their country, and everything else that's happening is, unfortunately, it's not good. It's not. We could be the world power. The problem is we're too broke. We borrowed too much money. Our interest now that we're paying just on the debt that we owe is a quarter of what we bring in taxes. A quarter of what the country raises every year in taxes goes directly to pay interest on the loans we have against our country. A quarter of it. And now they're talking about raising the debt ceiling again, maybe taking another 10 trillion or 20 trillion out. So keep what's going. Yeah, NATO split, I think, is going to be coming soon. Hate to say it. Watching what's happening, we got to be prepared. Like I said, community is your best way to be prepared. Being with your community and traveling with them. The problem is, Alex, I know a lot of people think we can shoot down hypersonic missiles. We can shoot down satellites because there's no cone in front of them. There is no plasma shield that is forming from the heat from moving through the atmosphere on a satellite. So intercepting a satellite is much easier than intercepting a missile that is in our atmosphere, having a huge wave, of course, of plasma in front of it. Plasma obliterates pretty much anything that's flying into it unless it's traveling faster than the object that's projecting it. So we would have to have an interceptor that could fire faster than Mach 29 in order to take down their hypersonics right now. With their newest test, showing Mach 29 as a sustained speed. So this is crazy. It's like hitting a bullet with a bullet, but your bullet has to be faster, otherwise your bullet gets eradicated by the wave of concussive force and heat that it has to pass through. All this, though, is just leading up to one thing. We know the U.S. is pushing forward as we watch, drones, now bombers, now more bombers. We can't say we're not pushing forward. Obvious. Yeah, I can't get into that program, though. Yeah. Our government, our military has been totally destroyed, and it's been totally destroyed for a long, long time. Not just giving away equipment, but giving away how we actually should be serving. We became too woke. I don't know what's happening next. Just be prepared. That's all I can say. Be prepared and watch where our money is going, because I guarantee this $411 billion it's going to take to rebuild Ukraine, we're going to magically have in our budget. magically going to be attached to our budget and attached to our debt as a nation. Doesn't matter that we're raising our national debt to the point where we will no longer be able to pay it with the money we make every year from taxes. It's going to happen. I want to say God bless you guys. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. We will be live Friday night. I will be announcing the winner of the hat as well. So God bless you all. I will see you guys then. Be safe, stay strong, and be prepared. Be prepared. We've already sent the money, though, we were supposed to send, but we don't know. Just don't know anymore. Be prepared. That's all I can say. Get your group of friends and family together. Till then, we've got to see you guys Friday night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Till then, stay safe.